Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Shadows. I'm your host, Harvey Guillen, aka Guillermo de la Cruz, the show where we talk about all things shadows, all the episodes, all the time, with the talent, crew, and celebrity guests. Today's guest is Anoop Desai. Now, we fall in love with that Genie face, but have we seen that face on television on another show? And also, we asked the Genie what their wishes would be.
Breathing is so overwhelming, heartbeats are a hassle. Tell me, why would anyone want to be alive? Death might have a reputation before she arrives, but trust me, we have way more fun in the afterlife. We have way more fun in the afterlife.
All right, thanks for joining us today. I'm really excited for today's guest. It's the one and only Anoop Desai. Hi, buddy.
Thank you for having me, Harvey. Yeah, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
I'm really excited. Already this season, people are talking about your character, the Djinn, or as Guillermo mispronounces it, the Genie. Do you think that's really common? Yeah. People mispronounce the right way to say Djinn?
Well, you know what? Even my wife, who knows the name of my character, I think it's because of Kayvon's accent. It sounds like like you kind of have to like put it in the context of the accent. But yeah, I think it probably, that's where it comes from, right? That's where the word comes. I don't know.
Yeah. Genie, or is it spelled like it sounds like Genie, but it's only pronounced Djinn? Like I know, like in Japanese, like when you spell like watashi wa desu, like desu is spelled D-E-S-U, but you don't say the U at the end. So
you don't say the U, right?
Yeah. So I wonder if that's kind of like I don't know. Well, we're gonna call him the Djinn. I call him the Genie as Guillermo. Either or, I think. What would you like to be called? The Djinn.
I think the Djinn, the Djinn, that works.
That works, right? Yeah. Well,
yeah.
We're really excited to have you this season on the show. It's been so fun. What was your audition process to get this role?
I was just actually, because I knew I was going to talk to you today, I was just kind of looking back at that, because at this point it was almost a year ago that the audition process started for it. And I think when I got the initial appointment, the initial audition, I think it was 2 episodes. It was basically the conversation that we'll see in episode 3, where they're kind of negotiating about Nandor's wish to have a larger member. And so it was that, and I did it with my wife. We were at home in Brooklyn. And then I didn't hear back for like a month almost. And then by the time I got the offer, they had up to, I think, 4 episodes. And then by the time we were, I think in the second month of shooting, it was like 6, 7, whatever it is now. So it just feels like it went from 0 to 60 really quick.
Yeah, because I remember you were there and you weren't sure of like, I think I'm going to stay long. They're asking if I can stay longer. And I was like, that's a good sign. That means that, as everyone knows, things shift in television all the time. So sometimes the scripts aren't finished. Sometimes the storyline's changing. And so we were really excited to find out that you were staying for pretty much the whole season.
pretty much the whole season. Because I'm in New York, they would always fly me back and forth to Toronto, right? It's like an hour flight.
Right.
And so that was great. I got to spend some time at home in the midst of everything, but it was also a little jarring, because it would be like, all right, we're back on this second block. We're flying you in for 3 days, fly home for 2 days. We're going to fly you back for a week, fly home for, so it was very kind of like, I'm here, I'm there, but it was such a fun experience. And I mean, like, it was the best. I had such a great time.
It was so fun. And then the episode that we just saw, it's titled The Lamp. And tell us about this episode.
Yeah. Well, this episode is where we meet my character, the Djinn, the Djinn. And it was, it's kind of, I feel like my character in the introduction is very, you kind of see him, you hear him, you're not really sure what his motivations are. He shows up because Nandor has found this ancient lamp in his ancestral homeland that he brings back to Staten Island. And of course, Guillermo states the obvious. Why don't you try rubbing it the opposite way? And I pop out of the lamp. And this is the first time you see my character, so I think it's a really important episode for me, a really dear episode for me, because I get to set the stage for who this guy will be for the rest of the season. And I gotta just, I was given, the guidance I was given when I auditioned was essentially, he's an accountant, he's dry, he's droll. And I just immediately, when I auditioned for this, grabbed a pair of glasses and I had like a pen, like a clicky pen. And I don't know why those two things just kind of stood out to me, but luckily props and was able to get me those two things. And that's really a big part of his identity. And you begin to kind of see those and how they play into the character in this episode.
Yeah, and they really do go so well with the choices you made for the character, where like I see the Djinn, and in your body posture reflects how you carry yourself, with like the glasses are always a little bit ajar over, so you only need them to read up close, but when you're talking to someone you kind of sometimes go over the eyes, so it's kind of like perfect, the mannerisms. And as an actor, when you see a fellow actor, like the choices they make, so they're like, oh, that's cool, like, yeah, I didn't think about that, that's really that's clever. Or when he makes the wish come true and the with the pen
and just the little pen click.
Yeah.
I had done that, and then I think it was because this was the lamp was actually the second episode I shot. We shot episode 5 before this. So that was I came in with those choices, and then I think Kyle was directing the other episode, and I think I took my glasses off for a second for one scene. And he was like, "What? Just leave him like that the entire time." So that has been, that's what the character is now. He never takes them off. He never actually looks through them. Like I never actually look through them. They're always here.
Yeah.
and every time a director would call action, I'd have to just because I can't keep them there the whole time on my face, just resting there. So I would have to take them off and put them back on. It was yeah. But I mean that's who he is. It's just. I liken him to, he's that guy that like maybe is working for you, like you're paying someone to do something, but you're still like you still don't want to bother him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like that person who you're you're like, oh, I'm sorry, could I just ask you like a quick question? Like
I think a lot of actors can relate to that. A lot of friends who don't want to bother their agents, and they're like, I didn't want to bother them, and I was like, what? You're not bothering.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
You're an agent. Yeah. And it just it does make the whole posture change, like your whole like attitude changes, because I mean, obviously you're an actor, so people get confused sometimes when they see the person who portrays this character and they're not walking or talking or or mannerisms like the character. I know I get that with like Guillermo, where like people are like, wow, you're like not quiet and shy, and it's just yeah, that's the character. But with it's so funny, just from like day one, and just being thrown into this group of like, actors who pretty much stick to, the group core of like the 5, and have people visit and whatnot. How did that feel to be like thrown in there, and like, which by the way, you just like held your own and just like played ball and you were like, let's do it. How was that experience?
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of, I think it was a lot of pressure, especially that first day. That first block that we did, I had read before I came on to set. I tried to do my research as much as I could about. I mean, I'm a fan of the show, but just about the like culture on set. The people doing interviews like this, and I was a little unsure about like, all right, I know Harvey and Kayvon, and they have their leeway, right? Like you guys have earned your leeway and your ability to improvise with each other, and that is. That comes from weeks and months and multiple seasons of working together and knowing the beats and knowing each other's personalities and each other's characters, all that kind of stuff. So I think coming into it the first day, it was a lot of pressure. And I think I asked one of the directors. I think Kyle was directing the episode that I'm remembering right now, but. And I just kind of went up to him and I was like, hey man, if any of this is like too much, just like tell me to shut up, and cause that was the fear. I think that the way it turned out was the opposite of that, is that this was the warmest, set I have ever been on. And it's rare as a guest to feel like, all right, not only am I, doing this job, but my contributions and my like energy and like what I see for the character is being honored by those that are in charge. Yana, Kyle, Teague, and the other characters that I'm working with, the other actors that I'm working with. It's just the best feeling in the world to walk into that tight-knit community that, you guys have built and you guys have earned, and still feel like, oh, there's room for me. There's room for what I have to say through this character. This character is here for a reason, and that's to add something. And so to have the freedom to add that is, it seems, it might, for people listening and watching, it might seem like, oh, that's a given. Like, why else would you be there? But it's a really rare thing in this industry to actually be able to do that on set when the cameras are rolling. And then, of course, for our funsies take,
yes, we call it funsies.
actually have the ability to like contribute and to be a part of it.
Now, people might not know this, but we have a thing on set that has now, I'm proud to announce, kind of traveled and transferred to other sets where we say funsies. And so we'll always do the scripted version, which, by the way, the scripts are amazing the way they are. But we have the freedom on this set that we are encouraged to improvise, which makes it very nice for the actor to feel comfortable to, own their space in the character and breathe and connect with the other characters. And we call it funsies. So people listening and watching, that's what we call the take, where it's like the one that we got everything. We got what we needed. We know we have it in the can. Let's have fun. Let's have a funsie. So we go funsies, and you just get to play. And I would say that, people like, and the creative team, like Jermaine and Paul in the past, have said that, in the editing, it's 50% that ends up being scripted and 50% funsies, which is the improvised version, which is nice because that's what the final product is, and people love it. So for you listening, funsies, if you ever hear us say funsies, that's what we're referring to.
We have way more fun in the afterlife.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Throughout my personal journey and professional career, life has had its fair share of tricks and treats. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have access to therapy to help me through those tricky experiences. BetterHelp has made therapy accessible. BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs and can match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. If you ever considered therapy but thought getting started was too complicated or expensive, I assure you it's worth it. And BetterHelp takes all the stress away. You can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. And getting therapy every week is easy as a few clicks on your laptop or phone. So many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional therapies in all 50 states. And they have a special offer for my listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/shadowspodcast. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/shadowspodcast. Now back to the show. But also working in Toronto, was that your first time in Toronto?
It was my first time in Toronto, yeah.
What'd you think?
And I got to, I mean, it was lovely because I got to go through, I felt like 3 seasons in 3 months there. When we started the first block of filming in September, I guess it was, it was like late summer. I was like, oh my God, I had a sweatshirt on, I had to take it off. By the end, I brought up my down jacket, for the last little bit that we were there. I mean, it got freezing, but I love the city. It's such a great city. I think especially coming from New York. Yeah.
I remember we got to hang out, and it was so funny because my friend, who's from Toronto, and we were going somewhere, and I forgot we were all in an Uber together, and we're heading over, and he kept asking me. He's like, I feel like I know Anoop from somewhere. I was like, oh, maybe you met him before. And he's like, no. And he kept putting it together. And then at one point in the ride, he just says out loud, wait, Anoop, were you an American Idol? Do you remember this?
I do. And it was Zach, I think, who has such it was
great memory.
Great memory. I was shocked because
shout out to Zach. Shout out to Zach has a great memory.
That was pretty funny, yeah.
But that's so funny. Well, tell us about your experience. I mean, people who might not be familiar with that, but you were an American Idol. You have an amazing singing voice. Like, people might not know this. We didn't get to utilize it that much, singing wise. Yeah. But people may not know this. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was really how I got into the entertainment industry. I I was actually in the middle of getting my master's degree, and I just graduated college at the University of North Carolina. And I kind of on a dare, like some friends and I, we were all going to disparate parts of the country. We said, let's go audition. So we hopped the flight to Kansas City. We auditioned for this. And then for me, it's just kind of a story of the experience, just like snowballing. Like it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And at the end of it all, like, I finished, I guess, sixth or sixth or seventh. I really don't remember. And
I think you were like top 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I that rings a bell. And then, it just kind of went from there. Like I decided, all right, I'm going to be in the music industry now. That came with a whole, set of expectations, of course, coming off of that show. The show is a blessing, but, it comes with its own expectations. So then I started making music under the pseudonym Totem for years. And I was doing a lot of writing. I was traveling the world. I was writing K-pop. I was writing in Sweden. I was writing, and at a certain point, I just kind of missed the camaraderie of being in a play, like being on set, because that's something that I had done when I was when I was younger in middle school and high school. And I've got certain opportunities to audition for things, and it just kind of like, I will say my experience in the music industry was really, really formative, and really, that's where I grew up. I entered into that industry when I was 21 on this like giant stage, the biggest stage I think that television maybe has ever had in terms of something like that.
Oh yeah, it's the pinnacle of like, that's, once you do that, it's like you've, in its own way, made it, because it's like, wow, to just make it into that show, that grueling process of auditioning, and how many people audition for that show year after year after year and don't make it to get on, the final, 10 or the final 20 even.
Yeah.
And that's a huge accomplishment.
And more talented, people than I didn't make it, that I was in the thing with. So it's just,
well, you're being
one of those. Well, it's a reality show, right? So like it has that behind it, but I do still count myself very, very lucky and very grateful, and the whole experience was a blast. I still, those people are still friends of mine, and we still keep up with each other and everything. So it was just a like funny trip. Like, I had an experience at some point that you're on stage, you're in the green room or whatever, and like, oh, like Stevie Wonder just, like walks in, and, we're like performing with Stevie Wonder. We're like getting a personal tour of Motown from Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson. Like it's like those experiences still, like I kind of can't, it almost seems like a
like
dream.
Wrap your head around
I have the memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that sometimes your memory is like, is that real? Like, did that happen? Like sometimes sometimes you can't wrap yourself around this idea or memory of like, did that really happen, or did I just in my head, was that a wish that I was making, and then like, but that happened, right? Like that really did happen.
The only way that I know that it happened is that sometimes when you're remembering a dream, you'll be like, oh yeah, that happened, but when you go back in your memory, like you can see yourself, right? Like if you're remembering a dream, oftentimes you see yourself in the dream, and that's how you know that it wasn't real, because like you could never have been at like watching it from that perspective where you're in it. That's the only way that I know that this was real, is I do have a very like first person like memory of it going on.
And footage of it. Like, there's footage of it that you actually
and there's some footage, there's some photos that I would
It's a moment, captured in time, and it's what it is.
Yeah.
It's in that moment.
Yeah, it is what it is. It was just a very public growing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have way more fun in the afterlife.
If you haven't heard already, it's Smooth Sack Summer. That's right, this is the summer to keep your balls cool while still looking hot with Manscaped. The leader in below-the-belt grooming is making sure we all have a ball this summer by giving our pants partners everything they need to stay fresh. Dive headfirst into Smooth Sack Summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with our code SHADOWS. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need to prepare that summer body. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Revival toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Beach, lake, or shower, this razor will devour even the strongest eternal pubes. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code SHADOWS, manscaped.com. That's 20% plus free shipping with code SHADOWS at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind.
But also, well, going back to this episode of The Lamp, what was it like, being on set for the first time ever? You've obviously did your research. You saw the show. Were you a fan of the show before?
I was a huge fan of the show. Fan of the show. Am a huge fan of the show. So it was helpful knowing especially as you mentioned earlier, like the rapport that you guys have. It comes across immediately on the screen. I think that's one of the reasons that Shadows is so beloved by so many people, is like it is all about the relationships. It's all about the interpersonal. You can say, yeah, it's a show about vampires and they're trying to take over whatever more than they're a couple blocks of Staten Island, but the show is really about a family. And so I think having it more or less seen the home videos for 3 seasons, it helped me to know what this is about. You also have to balance the fact that I'm not, my character is not supposed to know what this is about. I'm still figuring it out, right? As the Djinn, I'm still figuring out, all right, who are these, people I'm working for? Do I like them? Do I not? But I just having been a fan of the show, helped immensely. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. What was your favorite set? So since you were a fan of the show, I can't imagine what it's like to walk into where you've recognized, hey, that's their bedroom. That's Nandor's bedroom. That's where Guillermo sleeps. That's the fancy room. What was that like? And what room is your favorite?
I think Nandor's room is my favorite. I did a lot. We spent a lot of time in that room. So it became one of those things where, I got the level of comfort where the set became props and the props became, mine. That's, and I think that's why I have such an affection for that room. I will say the club, what will become the club, I didn't spend a lot of time in that room, but that and the Chamber of Curiosities on set are sort of, in the show too, they're attached, and so to see the Chamber of Curiosities with the stuff on the wall and just the immaculate set decoration and all of the work that goes into that and all of the that I was blown away. I was blown away by that.
That's Shane Fox Shane Fox did that. And Shane's work. Even just when when we see the house for the first time this season, right? It's obviously fallen into disrepair, and you kind of can get away with thinking, if you're watching it, that it's like, oh, they just strew there's just a bunch of stuff strewn around, right? Yeah. And just the level of detail that goes into all of that, like, quote unquote mess is, I still can't get over it. It was so amazing to see. There's no mistake in those sets where everything has been thought through thoroughly. Even the mural out over the fireplace with the original 3 from the movie. And if you look closely, in the bottom of that, there's a little mural that's hand painted. That's on the banister of the fireplace. That's covered. There's tons of little things all over it. But if you look closely, there's a vampire with pink hair, which is Kate Bunch, which is the original designer for that room, and it's her picture. It's a little Easter egg. So if you look closely, you might find Kate Bunch in the rubble of really beautiful artifacts.
That's amazing. Yeah, I feel like there's so many of those where you if you're not, the camera goes by so quickly, right? And because of the way that how we shoot is set up, it isn't we don't have a bunch of setups, like, and meaning, like, we don't change the positions of the cameras several times to get the same shot. We might change them once or twice, but that is like much less than most shows do. And because of that, it's you can kind of lose those intricate details. I'm so happy every time someone tells me something like that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I've been on this set for, now going on into the 5th year, and I'll always find something new. I'll always find something. I could be in the fancy room, and during in between takes, I'll just go through the desk and I'll just like pull stuff out. And like, there's been times where I've literally pulled out like a Disneyland, map from 1971. And I was like, what? How did this get here? And I was like, there's a story there. The vampires went to like, I don't know, like maybe it was a night, version of Disney, or a grad night, because you could stay at Disneyland all night or something. Did they go on like some kind of like, excursion? There's always like a story in every little piece that you see on the show. And that's what I love about our set. And that's credit to the amazing team that we have.
I mean, Shane and just kills it. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time. But okay, so you play the genie in the show, but if you had your own genie, maybe with not so many wishes.
Ooh.
Let's say we go with the traditional way of whenever it says 3 wishes. What would
three wishes?
Yeah. What would one of those 3 wishes be?
Jeez. One of those 3 wishes, would be to come back to this show for another season. I mean, that would definitely be one of my wishes.
That's so great.
I think another wish is that I never had to spend August in New York, in New York City ever again. It's the hottest place in the world. Oh man, and then I don't really know. God, this is why people get into trouble, because they don't think their wishes through.
I know, this is good though.
Then,
although I would say I don't know if I would waste your second wish on that. Because if you say out of New York in August, this is what you would do. The character in the show would be like, okay, and then they put you like somewhere even worse, like like you didn't say where. Then we put you like
in the middle of the Sahara
Desert or something, and you're like, nope, you didn't say where, and it's like, nope, should have been more detailed. But it's true. People don't think about their wishes, and that's okay. So online, people have been talking about the character, and people have been saying that he has a secret that we don't know. Almost like when you go to meet like a car salesman or something. It's like, I'm not telling you the truth, which is kind of what the genie's not doing with Nandor, telling him about the wishes and how you can get in trouble. What is his backstory that you give in the genie? What is like this entity that's been around for so long? What kind of stories do they have?
It's really funny because I feel like through the course of our Funsies takes, at the end, which no one is ever going to see, that like I feel like I developed that because I would always, those takes were always, I feel like, me talking about like, well, I've been in this lamp for however many thousands of years. Like, what do you expect me to do? So my backstory, I don't know how I came to be. Like, I think it's kind of a Big Bang situation as far as how I came to be. But I know that I'm thousands of years old. I've been doing this for all that time. I came out of the lamp fully formed, so to speak. And that's why I'm just like, look at these idiots. Like, what? Like, all right, I've seen this before. I know who you are. I know you're gonna mess it up, man. I know you're gonna mess it up. And that's like how I get my rocks off is by people messing it up. Like,
I love it.
It makes the 500 or thousands of 1,000 years in between when I'm summoned. It makes it like all worth it because I'm just kind of sitting there on my like pile of gold and sand, just waiting for someone to summon me so I can kind of ruin their lives.
You know what I love about the way you play the genie is that he always looks like he's, like you said, like you're bothering him, like he's busy with something else, like he was doing something when you called him and you're bothering him, and it's like the thought of like, what were you doing that like I bothered you? But he never shows like he's like, Is that what you want? You know, the way you play him is like, okay, what is it? Is that what you want? Okay. Because it sounds like you caught him in the middle of something, which makes you think, what is he doing in the lamp that's so time consuming that it's taken, he's had 1,000 years off, and then he has, comes back to, and then it's like, what do you want? It's just like, this person must really like their alone time, because they literally are so annoyed when they get summoned. It plays out so well.
There was this funny conversation I think I was having with Yana, which another one of the directors and
Yana Gorskaya, yeah.
And I think it was her, and we were talking about like, wouldn't it be funny, because I think the great thing about Shadows too is there's so many like cross pop culture references, right? Like it's a vampire show, but like how much do the characters really know about the world as it exists in 2022, and that But I think we had a conversation about, wouldn't it be funny if he's just like binge watching something, like he just every time he gets summoned, he just kind of like through osmosis just gets to the technology of the day, like wherever he is. So he goes back in the lamp, or he goes wherever he is, and he's just like watching like 5 seasons of Gilmore Girls, just like back to back to back.
Him and Guillermo have that in common. Remember, he binged Gilmore Girls too. He was in his solitude. That's so funny. Well, this year we see that Naja has opened up her own nightclub, and it's Naja's. If you were to have your own signature drink as the Djinn or Genie, what would that be? And what would what the ingredients would be?
It's just Makers on the Rocks. It's just whiskey.
Makers on the Rocks. Like, is it neat? It's on the rocks, you said, right? Okay, on the rocks.
Yeah, because it's he needs to be cooled off to some degree, because it's hot. But like not fussy, not anything. It's just kind of like listen, I'll sit here and like listen to you, like, but I'm not going to be your friend at the end of this. I want a system for getting this into me, and then I'm going to leave. I'm not really one for clubs. Like it's that kind of energy.
I came in for a drink. I got my drink. I am leaving. Yeah. He would be like that. He has no. That's what I'm talking about. Like, he has no time to waste, but all the time in the world. Like, that's what I love about this character.
Right. It's really, and as I got to do a lot of like one-on-one stuff with Kayvon, especially throughout the course of the season, I feel like I hope that people will be kind of surprised and kind of pleased with how the Djinn develops and their relationship, and also his relationship with Guillermo, because I feel like once Kayvon and I kind of built out like, all right, what does this relationship look like? It made our relationship that much more clear in the spectrum of things. And you definitely hit the nail on the head. It's like, I don't have time, but I have all the time in the world. But at the time, at the point that you are, I'm coming and I'm doing these wishes for Nandor over and over and over again, there is a little bit of an affection and an affinity that kind of grows, in my cold dead heart. So I hope that people will enjoy watching that kind of evolution as well.
I love that. That's so great. And I wish for that wish too. I want the Genie to definitely come back. If the Genie were to come back, what storyline would you like to see? What's an idea that you've been thinking? That'd be cool.
I kind of like the idea that now that I've fulfilled whatever I need to fulfill, for Nandor, and we will see over the course of the season how that works out. I like the idea of him kind of thinking, all right, well, I do actually have affection for these people. I do have an affinity for these people. What if I just like lived out here now, right? And got to experience all of the things that I don't get to because I'm always going back in the lamp. Like that idea about like, what if through osmosis I just like have all the technology, of the day. Like I can, from Staten Island, I can picture the Djinn, going on getting on the B train and going to Coney Island, and like figuring out like, oh, like, wow, this is the world, like going on just a hop on, hop off bus of like New York City, like having the experience of like not serving anyone and being a tourist, I think would be, I just see that as something that the Gene like has deserved, and also something that could be like super super funny, because I'm still dry. It's like I could see, one of the wonders of the world and still be like, well, that's nice. Why didn't they finish it? Like that's
That makes sense. Yeah, you critiquing everyone like, oh, that's a wonder?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
That's fantastic. Well, Anoop, thanks so much for joining us. This has been an absolute delight. I'm excited for everyone to see.
Thank you, Harvey, for having me.
Of course. I'm excited everyone to see the trajectory of the Genie this season, because it leads up to a very nice moment, and it's lovely to have you join us this season. Lovely to have you join us on the show. And if you want to tell anything to the fans who have quickly become Genie fans, what do you want to tell them?
I'm just so happy that you people are a fan of this character. It's such a fun character to play, and it's such a fun show to be on. I would just say if you're a fan of this character, a fan of this show, all your love is being put into the right place, because this is an amazing show and an amazing group of people, an amazing set, and everyone involved with it is, my heart is with all of y'all. So I just appreciate it. And
we love you for saying that, because we love you. And where can people check out your music or follow you on socials?
Yeah. So on music, just Spotify, if you type in Totem, Totem, and on Instagram and all that kind of stuff, I'm Totem Sounds. So TOTEMSOUND. Perfect.
Well, with your permission and legal rights, we will play off with one of your tunes.
Okay.
And head out. So thanks so much for joining us, you guys. Bye!
Behind the Shadows is a production of Straw Hut Media, hosted by Harvey Guillen, produced by Ryan Tillotson, Amada Sanchez, and Tyler Nielsen. Original music by Trevor Bumgar and Chris Hendricks. Vocals by Maggie Glass. If you don't already, subscribe wherever you're listening, and make sure to follow Behind the Shadows podcast on Instagram for more behind-the-scenes content. And tune in live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific on the What We Do in the Shadows subreddit for an AMA with Harvey and special guests.
Hey, did you ever love me like you said? 'Cause I'm tired of playing for useless miracles. Meet me on the west side, up here on the high line. Got a couple words worth saying. I talked it out in my head. All my thoughts are fading. Even though
see you next week.
I can't escape. Been here too many times before. I see him all now. Look how it changed. Not the reflection that I know. Just looking back out. Hey, did you ever love me like you said? Did you ever go and try and make my heart your home? I'm tired of playing for useless miracles. Meet me on the west side, up here on the high line. Got a couple words worth saying. I talked it out in my head, but all my thoughts are fading.